Modern people are surrounded by romance, but starving for intimacy. Maybe one of the strangest things about modern life is that people have never had more ways to connect. You can message someone instantly, video call anyone, match with hundreds of people online, talk to someone all day without ever being physically near them. And yet, so many people quietly feel emotionally alone. Relationships feel fragile. Conversations feel performative. People talk constantly, but rarely feel deeply understood. And many people no longer ask, "How do I find love?" They ask, "Why does connection feel so difficult now?" Because maybe the modern crisis of love is not the absence of attraction. Maybe it is the absence of emotional safety. Love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, an orientation of character. In The Art of Loving, psychologist and philosopher Erich Fromm argued something deeply uncomfortable. Most people are not actually taught how to love. They are taught how to be desirable, how to be chosen, how to attract attention, how to avoid rejection. Modern culture treats love almost like a marketplace. People learn to improve their image, their status, their attractiveness, their social value. But very few people learn emotional presence, vulnerability, emotional responsibility, patience, how to truly understand another human being. Fromm believed that love is not something that simply happens to us. It is a psychological ability, a way of relating to life. And this changes everything. Because if love is a psychological capacity, then many modern relationship problems begin long before dating itself. They begin inside the emotional world people were shaped by. Many people are not searching for love. They are searching for relief from emotional insecurity. For many people, love became psychologically connected to fear very early in life. Some children only received affection when they behaved correctly. Some grew up around criticism, emotional unpredictability, distance, neglect, conditional approval. And slowly, love stopped feeling safe. It became something to earn, something to protect, something that could disappear at any moment. This is why many adults enter relationships carrying invisible emotional panic. Not because they are weak, but because their nervous system learned early that attachment could be unstable. This idea appears powerfully in attachment theory and in the work of psychiatrist and psychoanalyst John Bowlby. The emotional bonds formed in childhood often become unconscious templates for adult intimacy, which means many people are not only seeking love, they are seeking reassurance, validation, emotional safety, proof that they are finally enough. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. One of the deepest contradictions of modern relationships is that people desperately want intimacy while simultaneously fearing vulnerability. People want closeness, connection, emotional understanding, deep love. But fear, rejection, abandonment, exposure, emotional dependence, being hurt. So instead of revealing themselves honestly, many people unconsciously create performances. They become emotionally controlled, agreeable, detached, hyper-independent, constantly fine. And social media quietly intensifies this psychology. Modern culture rewards image, confidence, desirability, status, emotional control. But intimacy requires almost the opposite. It requires uncertainty, honesty, emotional exposure, the willingness to be seen imperfectly. And many people no longer feel psychologically safe enough for that. Modern people know how to communicate, but many no longer know how to emotionally reveal themselves. This creates a painful paradox. People can spend years talking to each other without ever truly feeling known. Because intimacy cannot grow where authenticity is constantly edited. You cannot feel deeply loved while hiding large parts of yourself. This idea echoes the work of psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott, who wrote about the false self, a version of ourselves built to maintain acceptance while suppressing deeper emotional truth. And many people unknowingly bring this false self into relationships. They fear that if another person truly saw them, they might no longer be loved. There is another psychological shift happening quietly beneath modern dating culture. People increasingly experience each other as replaceable. Dating apps, infinite scrolling, validation culture, endless comparison. The human mind slowly adapts to abundance in a way the nervous system was never designed for. And this changes relationships psychologically. Patience weakens, commitment weakens, emotional tolerance weakens. Because modern culture constantly whispers, there may always be someone better. Erich Fromm warned about this decades ago. He believed modern capitalist culture trains people to relate to each other like commodities. People begin evaluating relationships through value, status, desirability, exchange, not deep emotional encounter. And eventually, love becomes psychologically mixed with consumption. Love and abuse cannot coexist. Bell Hooks believed many people confuse love with control, attachment, dependency, emotional possession. But real love cannot survive inside emotional manipulation. And many modern relationships quietly become transactional. People ask, what can this person give me emotionally, before asking, how do we create something meaningful together? When people become psychologically afraid of loneliness, they often settle for emotional performance instead of real intimacy. Perhaps the deepest modern crisis is not loneliness itself. It is emotional invisibility. Many people no longer feel safe enough to fully reveal themselves to another person. So they hide. Insecurity, tenderness, grief, fear, need, longing. And over time, they begin hiding even from themselves. This is why many people feel strangely empty inside relationships, because emotional connection requires more than attention. It requires encounter. The feeling that another human being has truly seen you without requiring you to perform. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming emotionally visible is frightening. Because many people learned early that authenticity carried risk. Maybe vulnerability led to shame. Maybe emotional needs were dismissed. Maybe sensitivity was mocked. Maybe honesty threatened connection. So people adapted. They became easier, safer, more acceptable. But somewhere inside, many people quietly lost contact with themselves. And this creates one of the deepest tragedies in modern relationships. People desperately want intimacy, while hiding the very parts of themselves that intimacy requires. You cannot build intimacy through emotional self-protection. Love is the active concern for the life and the growth of that which we love. Real love is not constant intensity, not endless chemistry, not performance. It is attention, presence, care, responsibility, emotional courage. And perhaps this is why real love feels rare now. Because modern culture trains people to consume each other, not deeply encounter each other. To seek stimulation instead of understanding, validation instead of connection, fantasy instead of emotional truth. But beneath all of this, human beings still want the same thing they have always wanted: to feel emotionally safe enough to stop performing, to feel accepted without editing themselves, to feel understood without pretending, to feel truly seen. Maybe the deepest human desire is not attention, but the experience of being truly seen without needing to perform. And maybe healing begins when love stops becoming a place where people try to prove their worth and becomes a place where they no longer feel the need to hide. Because perhaps real intimacy was never about finding perfect people. Maybe it begins the moment two human beings become emotionally honest enough to finally encounter each other for real.